Well, good morning and good afternoon, wherever you may be tuning in from. Thanks for joining this session. My name is Noel, and I'm an assistant professor at the University of Maryland School of Pharmacy. I'd like to kick things off today by highlighting what I believe is probably the greatest tragedy in the learning process during pandemic COVID-19. And that tragedy is quite simply the lack of meaningful peer-to-peer interactions during the learning process. I would venture to say that I'm not alone in feeling this way. The lack of peer-to-peer interaction has had significant implications on how students learn and approach their studies, as well as on their emotional and overall well-being. I believe the greatest challenge for us as instructors was not identifying ways to deliver the content. Now, there are many ways we can do that. Rather, it was identifying an instructional strategy that would promote and kind of cultivate these peer-to-peer interactions and relationships that our students were quite void of in many scenarios. And so with this in mind, I want to share a little bit about team-based learning and how team-based learning can be used in the online or the virtual environment to really promote those peer-to-peer interactions that are so important to the learning process. So first and foremost, I'll give just a broad overview of what team-based learning is. If you are new to team-based learning, I would highly encourage you to check out the link at the bottom of this slide to learn a little bit more. The kind of 10,000-foot view in history behind team-based learning is that in the 1970s, a guy by the name of Larry Michelson was really kind of the creator and inventor of team-based learning, if you will, and really was seeking some sort of instructional strategy that would help essentially deal with the large or growing class size in his courses. In addition, it was fueled by this desire to create real world and meaningful problems, and real world scenarios and problems involve interacting with teams and dealing with difficult personalities, etc. And so team-based learning is very much a process that I'll show you in just a moment. It is not just we're going to work in teams. It's very much a process and kind of a package deal, as I like to describe it. Fast forward a few decades, and team-based learning is used in more than 50% of medical schools and in a growing number of pharmacy and nursing programs across the country. And part of the reason for this is its focus on not just science and hard content, if you will, but also some of the quote unquote soft skills or life skills, like working with teams and developing relationships. It's also one of the most researched instructional strategies within health professions education. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, team-based learning is just working in teams, really, I would encourage you to read more at the below link. I liken TBL to bundling home and auto insurance with Progressive, right? If you want to get the discounts, you really need to do a bundle package. And that's what team-based learning is. It's an entire process for instruction. The first step is the readiness process, the pre-class work, readings, asynchronous or pre-recorded lectures, Khan Academy videos, YouTube videos, and the like. All these are done before class so that foundational knowledge is there before coming into class. That's not much different than many forms of the flipped classroom that you've probably heard about. What is different, though, is how the in-class time is spent. At the very outset of the in-class session, students will do an individual and then a team readiness assurance test. And this is purely designed to, one, hold students accountable for the pre-class work, but also as a way to reiterate important concepts. Now, as I mentioned, students do the same test twice, individually and then in a team. And it's during that team readiness assurance process that many of the glitches, if you will, or misunderstandings would be a better word, are worked out within the team and they talk through it to arrive at the right answer. And then the meat and potatoes of team-based learning, or TBL, is the 4S activity. And the 4S activity is really designed to, again, provide an authentic real-world problem that teams have to work together to come to a solution. Now, within TBL, the teams are a little bit different in that they are permanent or fixed throughout the duration of the course, even a semester or a year. And that's really integral to making sure that TBL is successful and that, one, relationships are built, but also that teams become more high functioning by the end of the semester. Now, what I want to spend the next couple of slides on is talking about how we operationalize the in-class time during this virtual or online format. Traditionally, you would use what's called an if-at scratch-off card. These scratch-off cards are a little bit like playing the lottery, right? You scratch to see if you're a winner, except there's points on the line for the quizzes. Obviously, we could not distribute these cards to 120 students and have them do it in a team on a Zoom breakout room. So we had to get a bit creative in our approach. I'll tell you that in the course that I manage, we simply use Blackboard. We created quizzes in Blackboard and had the students go in and complete those. For the team quiz, we sent students to their Zoom breakout room. One of the students would share their screen and they would walk through the quiz as a team and submit it as one team. I will tell you that you can also use Microsoft Forms. There's actually a really good publication on how to operationalize this, but Microsoft Forms can mimic the scratch-off card in a lot of ways. In other words, students will submit an answer. If it's right, they move on to the next question. If it's wrong, it tells them they're wrong and they take a second attempt at the question. And that's really getting at the immediate feedback, which is can be really effective in helping develop the teams, how the team functions together. Okay, we talked about this answer, we submitted, we got it right, great. We talked about it, we didn't get it right. What can we learn from that? We got to submit the right answer this time and move on. And then thirdly is into Dashboard. This is a kind of the holy grail, if you will, of online TBL because it's designed specifically for TBL. And this is a software, an application that I know the med school used some, and it's something that we're going to use in subsequent years at the pharmacy school. What about the application exercises? Well, as with the former slide, we relied on Zoom breakout rooms for students to go into their teams and do the application exercises. We would send students to their breakout rooms, and they would go to either a Google Sheet or a OneNote, and within that would contain the application exercises. And there's a tab for each team. We had 19 teams, there were 19 tabs. Students would go to their tab and complete the exercises. Now, what was neat about this as an instructor is that we could track and kind of follow or monitor students' progress throughout the application exercises. Team 11 doing a great job. They're making steady progress. Their answers are on par with where we would expect. Team 13, not so much. Maybe we need to pop into their breakout room and just check in on them. And so this was actually really nice. It was kind of like being a fly on the wall, if you will, and kind of getting a unique angle for how the students were doing. And this is very much analogous to how TBL would work in a classroom. The instructor is kind of circulating around the room and monitoring progress, answering questions where necessary, etc. Again, Microsoft Forms, Microsoft Excel, into Dashboard, all of these could be used as well. We use primarily OneNote and Google Sheets. What were the keys to success? Well, first was structure and routine. What we found is that students really appreciated and liked the cyclical nature of TBL. We had 11 modules. Each module followed the same exact rhythm. And that structure and routine for our students, it's no different than the structure and routine that my 4- and 2-year-old need, or even that I need, right? We thrive when we're in an environment where we know what's coming next. And we're able to kind of reduce cognitive load, if you will, when we know and we have some sort of predictability with what we're doing, and it allows students to focus on the more germane learning that we're focused on. Effective facilitation. It's really important that instructors put their facilitator hat on and not a lecturing or didactic kind of mentality. It's very much a facilitation mindset, and our instructors did a fabulous job of that. Thirdly, permanent teams, and I alluded to this earlier. It's really important that teams are permanent throughout the remainder of the course, semester, even year. And this ensures that not only teams are more high performing and high functioning, but it also allows more time to develop those relationships and get to know one another. Meaningful activities. With those 4S application activities, we spent a lot of time really making sure that they were meaningful, authentic, and that it wasn't busy work. That's one thing about team-based learning that is a pleasant kind of change of pace, is that the group work, it ensures that most everyone is carrying their weight and their accountability measures if students are not. And again, with it being authentic activities, real world scenarios, they tend to be received well. And then fifthly, adaptability. Instructors and students alike need to be adaptable in this environment because issues and technical glitches will arise, and we just got to roll with the punches. So my learning objectives for today were really quite simple. One, I hope that you can appreciate how team-based learning can be used in the virtual environment. And one of the key benefits there being that it promotes richer peer-to-peer interactions than some of the other instructional strategies that might be employed. And then secondly, list some of the technologies that can aid in effective implementation of team-based learning. We relied a lot on Zoom and Zoom breakout rooms. Obviously Blackboard, and then Microsoft OneNote, as well as Google Sheets. There are a number of technologies that can be used, but the bottom line is team-based learning can absolutely be implemented in the online environment, and can be done quite successfully. Lastly, if you have questions, please reach out to me. I'm very passionate about team-based learning and talking about this, and would be happy to answer any questions. I wish that I could be with you there live and synchronously, but unfortunately I could not. But I'm appreciative of being able to present it in this format, and would welcome any questions or emails that you have after the session. Thank you so much.